This podcast is recorded, edited, and produced by myself. All expenses from the gear, time, and travel are also covered by myself. To support this podcast in growing, reaching new people, new heights, and a higher quality, support this podcast at a link in the description. Thank you, and enjoy your episode. I'm Matt Williams. I partied my way through high school. I joined the army straight out of school as a rifleman. I deployed to Afghanistan for 8.5 months as a crew commander at 20 and turned 21 over there. I've travelled the world twice, jumped from planes, dove under the sea, drank from shoes in over 20 countries, and I regret nothing. Returning home, in a regular doctor's checkup, I was diagnosed with an incurable, inoperable brain tumour on my 22nd birthday. Since then, I've made it my mission to enjoy my life as much as I can and show that terminal illness doesn't mean your life can't be successful, meaningful, and fucking awesome, whilst putting in as much effort as I can to raising money for brain cancer research. 12 months of chemo done, 60,000 plus donated to research, and I'm fucking happier than ever and redefining terminal illness and smiling through it all. So welcome back to the 23rd episode of The Willy Show. I'm sitting here with Chloe and her friend Peter. For those of you, well, you would have seen the photo, I'm hoping, if you got here. Otherwise, you're just clicking randomly on Spotify. You've ended up with this fucking idiot and these two wonderful people, unlike myself. But Chloe actually, when she was 5, was diagnosed with a type of cancer. I'll let her go over the type of it and the name because I'm not that good with pronunciation. But it's ended up actually losing from the, was it knee up or knee down?
Knee down.
Knee down of her leg, and has been crushing life. She's come with Peter. So welcome and thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having us today. So I was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma in the right ankle.
Yeah.
And that ultimately led to me getting my right leg below knee removed. So before that though, I was misdiagnosed I think 2 or 3 times. So I went in with a bit of ankle pain and they were just like, oh yeah, it's growing pains, come back in a few months. So obviously a few months is a lot of time for cancer to sort of progress.
Yeah.
Spread and everything. And then they were like, we came back and they're like, oh, you're back sort of thing. And I was like, yeah. It still hurts. And they were like, oh, well, no clue what it could be. We'll send you in for maybe I don't know, it's probably an infection. So they just sort of put me into an operation, sort of cleaned it out, thinking it was an infection. And then they said, if it still hurts, if it's still giving you any dramas, come back in a few months. So then a few months went on, came back. It was really bad. It was swollen, couldn't even touch it.
But how old are you at this point?
So I was only 5.
You're only 5?
Yeah.
You're smarter than me at 5. I was cruising around I don't know what's going on.
Well, obviously it was mum taking me in all that far.
Yeah. No, you would have just rocked up to the hospital by yourself.
Yeah.
Just cruising in.
Yeah, having a cruise.
My leg hurts.
And then we went back to my GP and he was just like, what's the issue? And I was like, well, mum said that it was really hurting and I couldn't walk on it, couldn't touch it. And they're like, oh, well, it wouldn't be cancer. You'd be dead by now. So
that's what you want to hear.
Not that. Yeah. We'll rule that out. So cancer was completely off the table, but mum had a hunch, she sort of knew. So she kept pushing. She was like, do you want to test for cancer? Let's test for cancer. And eventually they tested for it and it came back positive. And then I still remember the day I walked in because mum's friend and her daughter came to hospital because obviously they didn't want her to be alone.
Yep. As you would.
Yeah. And mum didn't want me being in the room when she sort of got the news because she sort of knew. So then my mum's friend's daughter took me around for a walk and then we came back in and mum was bawling her eyes out. And then we get home and mum's like, well, you've got cancer. And I was like, oh, what's that? And then,
no idea. Yeah.
So then I ended up being admitted into hospital and they sort of talked about treatment plans, everything I'd be undergoing. They definitely said I wouldn't have my leg removed. That was completely off the table. They were like, we can get it, we can save it.
Not very good doctors, are they? Cancer's off the table.
Yeah.
Leg removed off the table.
Yeah, leg's not going, it's staying.
Yeah. And then eventually they were talking about chemo, radiation was never an option either. And they were like, here are the symptoms, here's what's going to happen. And I was fine with everything. I was like, oh yeah, I don't really understand. Okay.
Yeah, you were
smiling
5.
about it,
What
happy-go-lucky.
Sort of be yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm just 5.
And then they said that I would lose my hair. And that's like when I started crying. I was like, no, you're kidding. Like, this cannot be happening, not the hair. And I was like really reluctant and I was like not happy about it. And I like turned over instantly, started crying. And then Mum sort of went over what was going to happen. And then I remember maybe like it would have been maybe a month or so into treatment. No idea of time. But... And then they came in and they told me and Mum, like, you know how all the doctors sort of come in and have their little meeting while you're in the bed? And
Yeah.
They were just like, all right, well, we're probably going to have to take the leg. Like, Mum didn't even know about it. Mum wasn't there for the chat. And then I was going in for surgery or something and she found out by accident. Yeah. And then she had to sign all the forms and stuff. And then she just found out by accident. One of the doctors, like, must have slipped up. And then...
And how did your mum take that? Because that's a big thing for your little girl being sitting there next thing you're losing a leg.
How could you not tell the parent of the daughter getting her leg cut off that she's getting her leg cut off?
Yeah, literally. Like, oh, she'll be right. Like
halfway through the procedure, and then
she won't know.
Yeah, Jesus.
She won't even be able to tell. You know?
Yeah. Back to normal in no time.
Good to see you.
And then so Mum wasn't too happy. She definitely wasn't happy. And yeah, so I went in for the operation and really came out. And then I remember I could still feel like my leg and like the sensation of like movement and like it was so weird. And I was like, oh, they didn't take it. And I looked at the doctor and I said, thank you so much. Like, you didn't take it. Like, I'm so grateful. And then like
I know.
just like Chloe, look. And then so I like lifted up the covers and I was like, oh, awesome. I was like, that's so cool. Love that. And then I started crying. Like, obviously, like, it's an emotional sort of like, situation to be in. And then obviously, like, heaps of stuff would have been going through Mum's head as well. Like, I know that she's talked to me recently. She's sort of like bringing up stuff she couldn't tell me when I was little. So she's brought up like the fact that she never knew how I'd sort of like go with like making friends. Because I missed out on, like, a lot of time in, like, school. So I had, like, a year and a half or 2 years or something sort of on and off going back to school. And that was when I was little as well. So I missed out on a lot of, like, vital sort of education.
Yeah, that's probably, like, prep or grade 1 through 3 or something at the time,
important stuff. But I was still keeping on top of all the work and stuff. And she didn't know how I'd go getting my license. And, like, obviously that's still been an issue. But yeah, so...
That's incredible. So do you know why they actually had to take the leg? Why they didn't go for something like chemo? Or
well, I did chemo as well.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
Yeah, but they weren't really seeing the results they wanted. And it was just sort of like staying. It was very stubborn.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was sort of sticking around. So they decided that it's what they needed to do to sort of like keep me around. Yeah.
Which is the end goal with all
exactly,
with all cancers, isn't it? Just stay around as long
lose the leg, keep Chloe.
Stay around as long as you want.
Yeah.
So in those sort of earlier years of school, did you get like teased about it or anything? Or did you sort of get through it all right?
Well, me, I was like, sorry, my voice.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think everyone here's had a pretty big, it's a Monday, so everyone's had a bit of a big weekend or
the rough weekend.
Busy with work, and everyone's just losing their voice.
Losing my leg, losing my voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, I didn't really have like a whole bunch of friends, but like I had a supportive sort of like year level. Like all the people in my year level were really supportive of me. They did like this little photo book for me while I was in hospital, like all this sort of stuff the teachers would organise and get around. But yeah, sorry, my voice is like crazy. But yeah, so I didn't really get teased as such, but I was sort of like excluded when I came back. So it's sort of like they cared a lot during the like Chloe's gonna die sort of like, so they were there. And then as soon as they found out like I was all good, they sort of like had their own little things to get on with, and yeah. So it was
it's definitely not an easy thing, you know. Anything at school, if you're different, it's like
exactly.
I've got both my legs and I still fucking struggle at school. Jesus Christ. That's one of those things that's not easy. And have you ever felt like you do miss out on a lot because of it?
There's some points where I'm like, oh, I really wish I could go do that. Like, I see everyone else and sort of how they've grown up, and like, my parents are really like sort of protective. They don't want me to overdo it. They want me to know my limits, and which is fair. Like, it's understandable, obviously, if you've got a kid who's, like, disabled, you're not going to want them to go out and sort of, like, run marathons or do, like, any sort of crazy stuff. But, yeah, so I feel like, in a way, I was limited, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It was what was needed, and maybe I didn't see it then, but I definitely see it now, that if I had gone and done all that sort of stuff, that maybe I wouldn't be in the situation that I am now.
Yeah. Do you think it's sort of grown you as a person, like, to be able to deal with adversity?
Oh, 100%.
That if something happened to you now, you would deal with it significantly better? That you're a stronger person
100%.
from it?
My resilience is, like, crazy now. Like, that was a lot of sort of, like, there was a lot of overcoming sort of, like, challenges and, like, problems, especially during the process of the chemo and sort of, like, losing my hair. Like, I had no eyelashes, no eyebrows, nothing. And then losing my leg and sort of stuff. It sort of, like, shaped me to see that, like, maybe if something else happens, I've had it worse. Like, I don't know, there's just stuff that's come up and I'll be like, oh, well, I've had it worse. Like, I can't really be complaining right now. Like, I'm pretty lucky, so...
Yeah, you can get through that. You can get through the next thing, you know?
Yeah,
Bloody
exactly.
And do you have friends that sort of see you like that and then sort of seek you for help with things? Oh, shit, Chloe's been through a lot.
Yeah.
She'll be able to help me with this.
Yeah, I'll have a lot of people sort of, like, coming to me for sort of, like, emotional support in, like, those sort of situations.
Yeah.
Because, like, a lot of people's, like, parents and grandparents sort of go through, like, cancer and stuff. It's not really young people, which was one of the, like, really weird things that happened as well. Like, I think it was really rare for girls to have this sort of cancer, and especially for it to be in the leg that it was in, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. It was really, like, odd. But, yeah, so it's sort of not a whole lot of people that I know have had sort of young people go through, like, treatment and whatnot. But they're, like, grandparents and stuff. So they'll be, like, asking me, like, oh, how'd you deal with that?
Yeah.
But it's like, I feel like I'm not really the best person to ask. Because I've been through it personally, but I've never been someone who's supporting someone in that sort of battle.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't
Whereas, like, my parents and my sister and, like, all
Yeah.
those sort of people were really going through it as well. Like, it wasn't just me. Like, they had their own battles to sort of overcome while I was sort of in treatment and whatnot.
Yeah. You know, it's incredibly hard, and I'm sort of the same. I haven't ever dealt with someone overcoming it, but I think I would deal with it really, really poorly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I think I'd deal with it easier being me than someone else.
Exactly,
Yeah,
that's
it,
what I
yeah.
think. I'm like, I'm so lucky it was me. Like,
Yeah.
in somewhat, like, I'm sort of grateful because I feel like if it was someone else, either they'd have a hard time dealing with it or I'd have a hard time dealing with it.
Yeah, at least with yourself, you sort of, you know that you're all right on the inside. If that makes sense. You know how you feel. You're not trying to ask them anything. Are they full of shit, or are they? Or are they telling me the truth?
Exactly. When it's someone else, you really never know if they're, like, being honest and such, and you never know. Like, I don't know. You just never know.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we were having a good laugh actually before this podcast started. You mentioned that you have definitely not done things because of your disability, but then we're sort of joking around before of things you have done where you have pushed it a bit too far.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Skateboarding incident of 2018.
Yeah, well, this is what we want to know. This is all these sort of banter.
Yeah.
And the funny thing. So we need to know the skateboarding incident.
So
Were you present for this?
No, I wasn't.
no, so I didn't even really talk to Peter then. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't
You
even
were
know
my
about
friend
it.
then.
Yeah.
There you go.
Didn't know
Listen
you.
to to
Don't
me as
care.
well. It's all right.
But so I had been nagging mum for ages, like, oh, let me get a skateboard. Like, it'll be so cool. Like, I want to be cool.
My
Like,
mum wouldn't even
That's
want
what
me
you
to
want
get
to.
a
That's what you want to
skateboard,
see your
like-
daughter with one
Yeah,
functioning
that's
leg do.
I was like, either that or surfing, like, choose.
Yeah, that's it.
And then she eventually, like, because she was pregnant at the time with a set of twins. So she was exhausted and we were at the shops and I saw one and I was like, Mum, I'm getting the skateboard. And she goes, all right.
Just
I'm like,
yeah.
not thinking. And so then I buy it.
Just
I
had
go
enough of
home.
you, you know.
Yeah. And then I told my sister and my sister's like, oh, she finally let you. That's so cool. Like, let's go use her. And so we went to the park and we were just sort of like skating around, like, I don't know, being like pretty bad at it. And I sort of slipped a little bit. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'm not so good. I was like, maybe I'm really bad at this. Maybe I should stop. Actually, no, I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
So I kept going, picked it up, just kept going. I hurt a little bit, but I kept going. And then I came home, took off my leg, and it just starts swelling instantly.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh no.
I like you can say that. I got home and I took my leg off.
Took me a leg off. Not a whole lot of people can say that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it started swelling like instantly, and then I was like, oh no, I can't tell Mum. Mum cannot know about this. First time I've got out and used this skateboard, and she's gonna take it right off.
She'll be like, this is why I don't let you do things. Oh, look.
Bloody hell.
And then and I was like, oh, I'll sleep on it. I'll sleep. And then halfway through the night, I'm in like excruciating pain, and I'm like, I text Mum, and I was like, Mum, my leg. And she's like, what about it? And I was like, really hurts.
Yeah, oh no.
If I were your mum, I couldn't help myself but text back and be like, it can't. You don't have one. Like,
what do you mean? Where are you feeling it? You don't have anywhere to feel it, Chloe.
there was a meme a while back, just not to interrupt you, but there was a meme a while back of this guy who had like no legs, and it was like, this is Stefan, he climbed Mount Everest and he doesn't have legs.
Yeah,
What's your excuse?
excuse?
And the top comment was, my legs had hurt. I'm like, I think you're missing the point here, lads. Fuck. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so he texted Mum that my legs are killing me. Yeah.
And then she was like, oh, well, guess just sleep on it. Like, is it that bad? Like, can you go to sleep? And I was like, I really can't. Like, I really can't go to sleep. Like, it hurts so bad. And before that, I'd had a bursa. So it's like a sac of fluid that comes from, like, your joints, I think.
Okay.
To, like, a specific part if there's rubbing and stuff. And it just helps lubricate sort of, like, so you don't feel the bone rubbing against anything. So that was like formed in my leg already, like naturally. So it forms naturally. And then so she was like, oh, you sure it's just not that playing up? Like maybe it's hurting. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, true. I'll go to sleep. And then so I went to sleep, woke up, and then I was like, oh, I can't even move my leg right now. Like this is so bad. And I'd had an infection like in year 5 or something as well, so I knew what they felt like, but this one felt different. So I thought like, oh, it's definitely not an infection. Being a bit like the doctors from when I had cancer, ruling everything off. I was like, it's definitely not an infection. I'll be fine. And Mum was just like, oh yeah, maybe just give it a few weeks. You just need some rest. So I give it a few weeks.
It's always the case, isn't it? Oh, give it a few months. Oh, give it a few weeks.
I reckon.
That's a bloody long time. Maybe a few days.
Gave it a few weeks. Ended up being like, I think it was a couple months. So this happened in early February.
Yeah.
Sort of late January, early February. And then Mum's like, are you all right? And I was like, Mum, I've just passed out in the shower. Like, and then she's like, all right, like I'll come like get you. So I was like, I dressed, and then like Mum came and helped me out. And then she was like, are you all right? And I was like, no, I feel so sick. And I was like throwing up. She checked my temperature. It was like above 40.
Jesus.
And she was just like, she was like, maybe you should go to hospital. Like, maybe you should. This is pretty bad. Maybe we shouldn't have left it so long. Like, sorry. She felt so bad. And then my stepdad came home and he took me to the hospital, took me to emergency. And they were like, what did they say? They said, they sat me down sort of in the room and they checked for everything. And then they like did all my obs, all the normal stuff, weight, temperature. And then they gave me some like Panadol and stuff, routine sort of everything. And then they were sort of like, oh, well, maybe we should like give you an x-ray, see what's happening there. And I was like, yeah, okay. And they're like, what happened? So I told them the whole story and they're like,
did your mum know at this point?
Yeah, Mum knew. Mum already knew what happened. Like
at least she didn't find out
before.
as it was happening again, you know.
Exactly.
Bloody hell.
And then she was like, I told you not to get this skateboard. She was like shaking her head the whole time. And then the doctors are like trying to convince her to let me go back on afterwards. So they were on my side. So I was very thankful for that. Didn't work, but that's right. Gave it their best shot.
Once your mum's got an idea and you can't change her mind.
Oh, exactly. Pretty stubborn. But yeah, and then they did the x-ray and they're like, oh, there's like a sac. So then they did an ultrasound and they're like, oh, it's like a sac of fluid.
Oh, so
like,
it was like
and I was
bursa,
like,
was it?
Yeah, I was like, oh, so I've got a bursa, is it just that? And they're like, yeah, probably. So then they did some blood testing and it came back positive for like an infection or something. I don't know how they test that, but they do. And they were just like, yeah, we should probably operate.
Oh, wow.
And then they were like, have you had anything to eat? And I was like, no, because I knew I was coming in. So they sent me into emergency surgery that night. And they were like, you're so lucky you came in. Like, if you came in any later, you could have lost the rest of your leg.
Oh, no.
So it could have been like above knee, like sort of lower than my hip, but sort of not to my hip. And then, yeah, they rushed me in. And I started crying because I could sign my own paperwork.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is scary. This is pretty daunting. If I sign this and something goes wrong, that's on me.
Yeah, I can't be blaming mum.
Can't be
it's not
blaming
mum's
mum
fault
anymore.
Yeah.
Damn it. And then
I guess you could. You go, Mum, you let me get the
Yeah,
skateboard.
Yeah,
yeah,
you
that's
let me,
it.
Mum.
I'm
This is
only,
all your
how
fault.
old are you? Like,
I would have been 16.
Mum, I'm only 16.
Yeah.
You let me have a skateboard?
Yeah, how dare
Dare
you?
you?
No Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
Shredding it up, love
Yeah,
that.
that's it.
Yeah, fucking hell. He's still a weapon.
I
too.
know.
Oh, yeah,
He's in his
exactly,
50s
yeah.
now, isn't he? Yeah.
50.
And he's still going.
He did a thing the other day. It was like 50 tricks for 50 years old. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I
holy
saw
shit,
that,
my
actually,
dad's that
yeah.
old. He's not doing that shit.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
no, same with mine. Oh, my God, he
God.
can barely walk. Like, oh, my God.
I
so
couldn't
that's what
even
you
do
have to
one.
live up to.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
keep going. I'll keep
Yeah,
trying. I'll
I
get
believe
there.
in you.
Yeah, me and my one leg.
Yeah.
And then they're like, they came back and they were like, your infection was like the size of a golf ball. So it was pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Considering like, and they were like, and there was like loose pieces of bone fragment or something as
Oh,
well.
okay.
From
Yeah.
the crash.
Yeah.
So when you said it was a minor slip off the skateboard,
Yeah,
I'm going to
yeah.
go with it was more than that.
No, it was literally
Oh,
just like I
really?
sort of like,
Just stumbled off.
yeah, my
almost.
foot sort of, I don't know, it got caught
Yeah.
or like I
Yeah.
misstepped or something. And then I just got straight back on.
Yeah.
And they were like,
Did it hurt when you did that? Or were you just like, no, it's fine?
nothing I hadn't felt before.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like concerned. I just felt like a bit of rubbing and it like hurt a little bit, but I got back on.
Yeah.
And I was like, it'll get better, it'll get better.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
fine,
should be
whatever,
right.
it should be right.
Walk it off.
Yeah, exactly. Old mate
That's it.
Chloe, yeah. And then, yeah, so, and then they ended up saying like there was loose bone fragments and there was blood and infection and like all this stuff inside my bursa. And they decided not to take the bursa, but to like sort of drain it. So they left the wound open for a couple days. And then, obviously it would have been safe to do so, but, because it was only like a centimetre or something. And then I went back in for surgery again. And I remember I was still a part of cadets at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
we had this big like NCO group chat.
Yeah.
And it's like serious. Like you can't like just mess around in there. Like
That's the exact opposite of my NCO
Yeah.
group chat. My NCO group
that's
chat
it.
is just banter
Just
and
full
memes.
banter.
yeah, we had the
That's
full
good.
like full proper
That's
one,
good.
and then we had the one for like all the funny people that like to sort of
Cadet-
joke around.
Cadets are hell
all
more
the
serious than
banter.
actual guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is. I swear.
I know,
Oh.
cadets is so serious.
Oh, yeah.
But and I remember sending my friend Scott, like we call him Scott last name. I remember sending him a bunch of videos while I was sort of like drugged up after
Yeah.
the
Oh,
surgery.
you sent it in the chat, did you?
Yeah, and
Oh, no.
I sent them to him. And then I was like, I've got a great idea, guys.
Oh, yeah.
And then I sent it to the funny group chat and I was like, I'm going to send the NCO group chat
Yes.
the funniest videos I can think of. And of course, I had no one with me after surgery.
Yeah.
Because mum's got the 2 sets of twins under 2. And then
Yeah.
my sister was like busy at work and my stepdad was working as well. So obviously like busy lives.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I was by myself, and so no one was there to stop me. And then I was like, "This
Freedom.
is a great idea." So I hop in the NCO group chat, and I was like, sending all these videos of me like dosed up on fentanyl, like, and it was so bad. I was like, guys, I can see myself in the phone. There was 2 of me, and I was full like flipping out, and I was like, what did I say? At that point, I was like, gonna go to the Red Hot Chili Peppers concert from the Superloop in March. So I was pretty pumped
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, we're like,
and I was
keen.
like, where's Flea? Like, he was meant to be in a hospital. Like, where is he?
Imagine that if he
Britney
gets
Spears was
arrested.
meant to be here.
Jesus.
And it was
He's
like,
not part of the Chili... She's not part of the Chili Peppers. or
she's
something
gonna
like that?
come sing along.
Special guest.
Yeah. As you do.
Featuring Britney.
Yeah, that's it.
And so yeah, I was like just sending all these random videos, and at one point it got really political
Oh, Jesus.
because I really
Oh,
like
no.
I have a strong interest in like politics.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't even remember what I was saying now, but it was just the funniest stuff. And then I remember one of the high ups, they were sort of like in the group chat, and they sent a question mark. And then my friend Scott, he was just like, guys, I'm so sorry. She's currently just had an operation. She's not really with her. And everyone was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Everyone in the side chat was like, Chloe, no.
Yes.
Clinton, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm a free woman. Let me do what I want to do.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
They still use that against me. They always tell me, they're just like, you told us you were a free woman. Don't forget that. I'm like, oh my God.
I absolutely love that. I'm sort of thinking of, have you seen that video of that kid drugged up after getting his wisdom teeth, and he's like, Dubai was lit, man.
Yeah.
Have you seen that kid?
Me?
Yeah.
That's literally what it was like.
Oh, God.
I've seen so many of them, the nurse walks in, he's like, can you be my girlfriend? Or
Oh my
something
gosh.
like that. Oh, you're
Yeah.
really pretty.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's it.
I love that shit.
That's the best.
And what was the outcome of that surgery?
So basically, they stitched it up, sent me home, and I was like, all good. So then I ended up walking again, but it wasn't till I think it was the second operation, because later on that year I got another infection.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, as
Knowing
you do,
Chloe,
yeah.
good on
Yeah,
Chloe.
as you do, yeah.
Great for the medical record.
Yeah.
Me and my 11 volumes of thick doctor's
Oh,
notes.
Jesus.
But yeah, so then stitched me up, sent me home. We had a lot of problems with I'm not too sure if you're familiar with NDIS. So the National Disability Insurance Scheme. So we had a lot of trouble getting funding for a leg. So I didn't have a leg for that year. Yeah, so didn't have a leg for a very long time, but I was one of the luckier ones. A lot of people went a lot longer without them.
See, I don't get that. It's obviously not an elective thing.
I just choose not to have a leg.
I don't have a fucking leg.
Yeah.
If you want a 10, I'd be like, yeah, let's settle down. But to get a leg, I'm
exactly.
as a taxpayer, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
No shit, that's where my money should go.
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit ridiculous, but since they've changed the whole system, it's gotten a little bit better now.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's still really difficult to sort of access funding at the moment, but it's a lot better. But yeah, so I was without a leg, and I ended up going to one of my friend's formals in crutches.
Yeah.
So embarrassing.
Oh, yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah. And then after that, I was sort of good, infection free, but I couldn't go to school. So I practically didn't do year 11 because for the few months that I refused to go to hospital, and then the few months after my surgery, the few months not having a leg, and then finally getting back to school, I think I was in my crutches. And then got back to school, and then eventually we went back into hospital, and they were like, oh, you've got another infection, by the way. Because I started to notice some of the symptoms, and I was like, all right, we're going to get on this quick.
Yeah.
Not going to lose another half of a year. Going to get my year 11 finished. And then we went in, and they're like, oh, it's come back. We're not too sure why. Not too sure if you've heard of infection of the bone. So I forgot what the word, the technical term is.
Oh, I'd have no idea.
Bone infection.
You can make up whatever you want. People will be like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. You watch. I'll remember as soon as I walk out of here.
Yeah. Matt, you drive fast.
I'm coming back. We've got to edit this. We're redoing the potty.
Oh, I think of it, and it's halfway through. It's
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what and it's just and this.
Google it.
It's just
Probably
really
Google it.
shittily
I could,
dubbed
but
in.
I'm probably not going to.
Nah, it's all right.
But yeah, they're
Figured it out.
we don't think it was in the bone, but we'll check because it came back really sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
I mean, you did break bits of it off, so.
yeah, exactly. Well, we thought we drained most of it, but apparently not. And then we went back in, had another surgery, the same procedure as last time. They left it open for a couple of days, stitched me up, sent me home. But the second time that I came out of surgery, I was convinced that I had a baby. I was dead set on the idea
I
that
feel like this is when we should have done the podcast. We wait for you to get another infection, then me and Pete rock up and be like, righto, we're here.
Yeah,
that's it.
Put the mics out, just wait for it to wake up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's such a sudden thing you said as well. We just finished the surgery, and then I was convinced I had a baby. How do you get that?
I was full convinced. I think it's because my mum just had her second set of twins, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I was...
Wait, does she have 2 sets of twins?
Yeah, she's got 2 sets of twins.
Jesus.
Under
Oh my
so
God.
4 babies under 2. So
Nah,
yeah,
that,
very hectic.
yeah.
Yeah, so I was convinced that I had children. I was like, you took my babies, how dare you? And then mum ended up coming in to me screaming, and I was like, Mum, they took my children. And the guy next to me in the other bed, he like broke his leg or something, had it all pinned up and like elevated. And I look at him dead in the eye and I go, was it you?
Oh,
And I go, did you know about this? Did you know that they took my babies?
Yeah.
Oh no.
And he was like, he was full laughing. He thought it was hilarious.
I would have
And
been
then
too. Oh,
Yeah.
that would've
his
been the best
parents
thing.
were full like dying. They thought it was hilarious. And then a couple of them had to leave the room because they were laughing and like they were crying. It was so funny. And then I looked at them as they were leaving and I was like, are you going to go get my babies for me? Like, I don't know where this idea came from, but I was like, babies. I don't even want kids.
Yeah.
I was like, but I've got babies.
Bloody hell. Especially experiencing, 2 sets of twins under 2.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, no, I've
Definitely
turned
don't
off
need
kids
some
forever
more. Yeah.
at this point. Jesus. And actually, back on the leg, as you got bigger, like you grew up, did they have to give you like different legs?
Yeah. So
Like,
every
if that
time-
makes sense.
Yeah. So,
Because my legs grew with me.
Yeah.
So basically, I'd go in and get sort of like measured, and they'd do a cast, and then I'm pretty sure it's like they cover it in like fiberglass or something.
Yeah.
But yeah. So once it's set, it doesn't really like expand. You can't really like grow with it. So
Yeah.
I think I'd have at that point 2 or 3 a year.
Yeah. I was going to
So
say,
from
yeah,
going-
it grows so quick.
Yeah, from going to have like 2 or 3 per year to not having any for a whole year was just like, yeah, it was really like saddening. And I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, that's just
Yeah.
taking so much away from someone
Exactly,
who
yeah.
is very, very able
Yeah,
to
'cause-
being, it's a disability at that point.
Yeah, I
Like,
was extremely active. I was doing like sports and all that sort of stuff. And then after that, I sort of was like, oh, maybe I won't do so much.
yeah.
Because if I break this, I'm not going to get another one. So I was like, I really have to be careful with what I do because if I break it, I'm not going to be lucky anymore. Like, I'm not going to be able to afford to get another leg.
Yeah, that's such a weird case.
Yeah.
And it's almost embarrassing that not.
Exactly,
like-
yeah.
Do you know if
It's
it's common
ridiculous.
for that to happen, or if it's just?
So I know of another girl who sort of, she had both legs taken. So she was a double above
wow.
knee amputee and she had no access to any funding whatsoever. And a lot of the time, like the cases are like, you'll get funding for carers, you'll get funding for psychology, you'll get funding for anything and everything but what you actually need.
Yeah.
They'll fund someone to go take you bowling to maintain friendships,
Yeah.
but they don't fund you to go and get a leg so you can do that yourself.
That's just.
It's
Do you know what
ridiculous.
that is? Is there a?
Stupid. That's
Yeah. Is it like just a
think it's
lack
just-
of?
I think it's
Like-
just a lack of knowledge. So they don't really, a lack of understanding of like,
I feel like
one, the system, and 2, of like how to go about the system as well.
Yeah.
And like a lack of understanding of certain people's circumstances. Because obviously before, when the government was funding all this, it was sort of like catered to every person. It was very like individualized.
Yeah.
So it's like you get quotes written up, and then the leg man, or like I call them my leg
The
man.
leg man,
Like,
yeah, that's
yeah,
fine.
the people who make my legs, the leg man.
Yeah.
So I get like my leg man who will fix me up with a leg, and then the government will just pay for it.
Yeah.
That's how it used to run, from my understanding anyway. Whereas now you have to apply for funding and get rejected and keep getting rejected and rejected and rejected until eventually you'll get accepted. And the people who sort of like hassle them the most are the people that end up with the funding now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
yeah.
it just seems very wrong.
Yeah,
wrong to
exactly.
me. And you mentioned you're someone who's very political based.
Yeah.
I'm like an avid follower of you on Instagram. I've been for I don't know how long we've been in touch.
I
Like
think it's been like
maybe 12 months. It's been
Yeah,
a
maybe
while.
12
I don't even know
months.
how.
Yeah, I think
Like
I stumbled upon your page because like the whole like obviously your situation
Yeah.
going through like all the treatment and whatnot. I think you came up in my recommended. Or
right.
one of my friends actually saw you for research project.
Oh shit. Oh,
Ethan Ballard.
Ethan. Yeah,
Yeah,
Ethan's
I don't know him personally,
Ethan's
but I know
legend.
of him, and I
Yeah.
think I've spoke with
No,
him a
he's a
couple
good
times.
mate. 'Cause
He's
I
a-
used to do cadets as well, and
Oh,
I
you-
handed
yeah.
over the unit to him. So
he's a legend.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
he's
love
pretty-
him.
he's a
He's
champ,
the
love him.
best.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think I've had a couple like conversations or something with him,
Yeah.
just like at cadets or something.
Yeah.
And then while I was following him, I sort of saw that he saw you for research
Mm.
project. And, you know, like me, like classic stalker Chloe, I'll just go click
Yeah.
on everyone's sort of like ads and
That's what
Yeah.
you do,
see who this person is. Are you in South Australia? Like, who are you?
That's it.
And then
How
I
do you
stumbled
know this
across
bloke?
your page and I watched one of your stories. And it was, I think you were in hospital.
I might have been. Yeah, I have
And
no
then
idea.
you said
I'm in and out.
it was like one
That's
of
it.
your pictures of your like x-rays of like all the
Oh,
like tumor
yeah.
stuff.
Mm.
And yeah. And I was like, oh, this guy seems pretty like chill. I'll follow him, chuck him a follow. And then I think one of your friends or something followed me.
Yeah.
And then so I followed him and then I got a message from you. And I was like, oh, okay. That's cool.
I'm not the only stalker around here.
That's it.
Not like I'm doing all the stalking.
Yeah. No, I just want to know because your bio goes, I've got a Spotify playlist about you.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's what I'm in. Like, I want to know, like, what's on
Yeah.
mine?
I was like, I've probably got a playlist about
That's
someone.
it. Yeah. That's
But
piss funny.
I've had so many different bios. I think one of them was like, if you're going to hit me up with some like jokes.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people were sort of just like, hey, and I'm
Slide
like,
into those DMs.
believe you were
Like-
seen unless
like-
you've got a leg joke. So.
Yeah, because we've been trying to do this podcast forever, and it's just
Yeah.
been the worst timing. It's
Oh,
been like,
exactly.
I'm here, like, no, I'm not. And it's just like,
Oh,
either
sorry,
way,
I've
I'm
got
like,
exams. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm working
Oh, yeah.
hospital.
but I can't drive. I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck.
I can't drive. I'm so sorry.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's all good shit.
Fuck.
Oh, what was I going to say? I had some. Oh, yeah, you're saying you're very political.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Do you have anything to do with this sort of NDIS stuff of trying to get this better for people, or?
Not at the moment. I talk to my mum about it a lot.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I guess
as
just
far
being a
as it goes.
face to it though. Like,
Um,
I see your profile on you. Well, from what I've seen, it doesn't hold you back at all.
no,
really.
not at all. Definitely not.
Like you're at the beach and you're swimming and you're doing
Yeah.
all this, and
Exactly.
it's like,
I
well, you
don't
wouldn't,
think-
you honestly wouldn't know
Oh,
that
thank
you've
you.
got you've got one full leg.
That's like the biggest compliment though, because I get that a lot as well. Like even heaps of my friends are like, "Oh, I forgot you had one leg."
Yeah,
Like,
they'll just
I
say it
always
out of the
forget as
blue, like,
well, yeah.
"I forgot you're disabled,"
yeah.
or like I'll mention something and they'll be like, "You're not disabled," and I'm like, "I've got one leg," and they're like, "Oh,
Hey, we forgot about that.
yeah, I forgot about that."
Chuck it
Oh
up
my
on the
God.
table, something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You just bring it out and you're
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
See,
Yeah.
it's right here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did stage 2 international and Australian politics. So that's something that my school, like my high school, ran. And then for one of my essays, I was going to do an investigation about the NDIS and how like it sort of like evolved since it was sort of like rolled out. But I didn't find a lot of information, and I don't think there's enough information which is accessible at the moment. Like I think that the only way you're able to get information is through like your local sort of coordinators.
Yeah,
But that's about it.
and that's pretty difficult. You know,
Yeah,
really
exactly.
searching yourself for it. But one of the big things I've seen too is you have a lot of support for men.
Yeah.
Which is just I don't know why, but it just seems I'm like every time, especially when like a chick puts up something about like, you know, this is the actual statistics behind
Yeah.
men, and I'm sitting on my phone like, fuck yeah, like yeah,
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah.
I'm like we're swinging the chicks onto our side too. Like,
Oh, exactly. Like
yeah,
I understand where a lot of like women sort of come from in a place where it's sort of like they seem to be like they come off very sort of like victimized as well. Like I get that a lot, but and some of it, yeah, it is like 100% legit. But I think when you look at the actual statistics, and you'll see that sort of like men's mental health plays a factor in a lot of things as well, and that if we can sort of destigmatize sort of like depression and like suicide among men and like sort of get the conversation going, that a lot of issues that they're having with women will decrease as well.
yeah,
So I know that like DV and sort of like abuse and all that is very like common men to women, like, but not everyone hears about like sort of men being abused.
yeah.
But it happens. It happens. Like a lot of, I think some of the statistics, I don't even know. I'm just going to like make something
go
up.
for it.
I have no clue. I'm just rambling. If someone said like, oh, like 70% of abuse is towards women, like, well, 30% of that is towards men.
Yeah, well, you
Like,
still got that 30%.
You still have that 30%. They're a minority
Doesn't
as well.
mean it doesn't matter, yeah.
Like women are a minority, but like men are a minority as
Yeah.
well in a lot of things. And I think it's just really unfair
Yeah.
that they sort of get looked down upon for maybe having mental health issues or so I'm like really supportive with all my friends and stuff. I'm like, if you need me, just like have a chat whenever, like I'm here. Like just treat me like one of the boys. Like
Yeah. Well, I think that's an incredible outlook
Thank
to have.
you,
That it's really
yeah.
just, you know, like, well, I don't really give a shit if you're a man or a woman, but we all have our problems.
yeah,
You know,
oh, exactly.
let's not put one above someone else's.
Yeah, so I do have like some statistics, and
Yeah.
I'll bring him up.
So
Yeah,
it's like-
look at that.
around 1.5 million Australian men aged 18 years and over, so that's 17%, had a self-reported mental or behavioural condition in 2014 to 15, and that was from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. But I'm pretty sure as well it says suicide kills an average of 8 people a day in Australia, 6 men and 2 women. So that's making men 3 times more likely of committing suicide.
Yeah.
And like men are a big part of sort of like our community as well. Like women are also getting like really sort of like confident, and like they're playing their part in the community as well, which is amazing. Like I'm all for that as a
Yes.
woman
Yeah, of
myself.
course,
like
yeah.
the girls. Like
Yeah,
fucking
you
oath.
know.
but
You can't just support one side.
but you
know.
can't just start dismissing men as well.
Yeah.
Like you can't value someone's life over another.
Yeah, lifting women up does not mean pushing men down.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
I
I think that's what a lot of people disagree on. You know, they sort of lift the girls up, you know, but then they sort of just forget about the dudes.
yeah,
You know how it is.
exactly. And I think it's just really sort of, I don't know, just bias. If you're a woman and you're sort of like, oh, but girls are being treated so poorly, but look at men, they're like 3 times more likely of killing themselves. Like that's sounds horrible, but that's the truth. And like people need to start looking at it like the truth.
Yeah, for sure.
And I talked to this guy on Instagram. His name, I think he goes by like Caged Lions.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure if you've seen his page at all.
No,
I get
no.
a lot of my stuff from him as well. And I actually had a chat to him when I found out I was doing the podcast as well. I was like, give me any information you've
Yeah.
got. Like, I want to be really well educated.
Yeah.
So I don't go on there looking like an idiot.
Nah, that's impossible. You've got me here.
And he said, we need to be giving men something positive to work towards, and should replace words like toxic masculinity with true masculinity. Because a lot of people think that being a man is very like toxic, especially to like women who are also like naturally very emotional. They tend to sort of like seek help a lot more.
Yeah,
and like
that's it.
when a man does that, he's sort of shamed for it. He's like,
Yeah.
why are you talking about this?
And that's why a lot
Why
of
are you
blokes
getting
just
help?
sort of go, oh, no, you'll get through it, mate, no worries, you know. And
Exactly,
they don't really
like-
talk about it.
Yeah,
you know?
they just sort of brush it off
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then like a week later, your friend's like gone and like attempted suicide. And like me personally, I know a lot more of my male friends or like boyfriends and stuff have like more suicidal thoughts than the girl ones. And whether that's just me being me and them being able to come to me about it, like there's probably more.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot more that probably do not feel comfortable coming to me about it because I'm a girl.
Yeah.
And that's where I think like sort of destigmatizing sort of everything, you'll be able to sort of have open conversations about this sort of stuff. Yeah.
It's fucking important, guys, being there for each
Exactly.
other too. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the big things is guys, and fuck, we all us blokes do it. Like, hey, you be right, mate.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that's
And
it. Yeah,
sometimes,
no, yeah.
like a lot of time, yeah, they will just be right. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's not.
Exactly.
And it's not.
And
exactly.
sometimes you sort of you don't really think about it too much after that. You know, like, oh no, he'll be right. You know, you don't have
Exactly.
to worry about it. You know, oh no, he'll be right.
And
Yeah.
depression
Yeah.
and anxiety has no sort of limits. Like it targets anyone and everyone.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like
Yeah,
if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, you might just like sort of get those thoughts, and then you'll go home and be like, oh, like they're just whatever. And then they'll just keep coming back, and they'll keep coming back and keep coming back until you're sort of in too deep because you haven't got any help,
Yeah.
because you didn't address it beforehand, because you didn't feel comfortable speaking out about it. Whereas like I know a lot of my girlfriends who are sort of just like, oh, you should go see a therapist. Like they're so good for you. Like they help you so much. Like I see one, like all this sort of stuff. And I'm like I'm really glad you feel comfortable doing that, but not a lot of people do.
yeah, yeah.
And like that's where I'm glad my friends are really supportive with that stuff as well. Like they'll tell anyone and everyone, they're like, no, you should, like it's okay to be feeling like this, but not all the time.
Yeah.
Like you need someone professional to be able to sort of guide you in the right direction. And like we can't really
Yeah, no, that's 100%. And I've dealt with that too. It's like that, it's a guide if you seek professional help.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just to give you a bit of a push in the right direction, and then it's your own sort of journey from there.
Exactly. And you can only get help if you want it.
Yeah, no,
So
absolutely.
100%, if you're surrounded by good people who want you to get help, you're going to want to get help too.
Yeah,
Whereas if you're sort of alone and secluded, you're not going to want to get help. You're just going to be stuck in those sort of reoccurring sort of like cycle of like all these bad thoughts and
yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot to show. People surround themselves with people, and good people have a
Exactly,
lot
yeah.
better mental health.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh,
And a lot
definitely.
of the decrease in our society of mental health, men and women, everyone,
Yeah.
is purely because we live such a sort of secluded lifestyle now. Like I
Exactly.
could literally, not my job, but like if I worked in an office, I could go, I live alone, so I could go from here to work and back and not see anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can do that.
100%.
And you can just fall down a rabbit hole terribly.
Oh, exactly.
And the more and more we do that in society, the more we're on these fucking phones.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
We're more social than ever, more connected than ever,
Yeah.
but sort of disconnected at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like a lot more people are struggling now.
Oh, shit,
Especially
yeah.
as like the advancement of technology. You're sort of happy through the screens and stuff. Everyone thinks you're all good and like you're posting all these photos, living your best life, and then
Yeah.
it's sort of like you're alone. You're all in a room by yourself posting these photos and you're not happy about it.
Yeah. I sometimes fantasize about, like, imagine what it would be like if we didn't have phones.
Yeah.
Like,
all
I
the
go to like a
time.
party or something or a dinner. I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck, what would it be like only 10 years ago
Yeah.
Yeah.
when
well,
our
that's
phones were a Nokia that you can't do shit
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like-
Play Snake and that's about
Yeah,
it.
fucking the old 3310
Throw
Throw it at
Nokias.
the wall, won't even break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
That's it.
what would this be like then? Like
iPhone.
almost the
Did break.
difference. What would our social skills be like?
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. They'd be like, especially with the sort of like rate of anxiety and depression going up.
Yeah.
Because like I know that a lot more people that I'm speaking to are sort of like coming out saying they've got anxiety and depression and all this sort of stuff.
I feel you with the voice. Trust me, don't worry. I'm there.
But yeah, so I think maybe if we can sort of move past the willingness to not have a conversation and we start actually breaking sort of those barriers and sort of overcoming. And yeah, because a lot of people go through different circumstances and situations, especially myself.
Yeah.
And I find that, like me, myself, I haven't really had to struggle a whole lot with my mental health, which is really odd considering like all this stuff that I've been through,
Yeah.
compared to a lot of people I know where they've sort of fallen down a hole and not been able to
But
get
it might
out.
be too with you that because you went through it so young, you've built those skills really
Yeah.
early. You
Yeah.
sort of reflex those resilience muscles
Yeah.
and
yeah.
built them up. That now, if you break up with someone or you have an issue like that, that I've worked through this. But that some
Yeah.
people, that might be the worst thing that's ever happened to them.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know a lot of people who have sort of, I'm not going to name names, but I know a
Yeah,
lot of
of
people
course,
who
yeah.
have maybe had a pretty rough breakup, like
Mm-hmm.
a few years back or something, and then it's the end of the world for them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, you're being a little bit, like, coming from myself, like, I think that maybe it's ungratefulness, or maybe it's just like them not having anything else happen to them before
Yeah. Yeah.
to have the opportunity to be grateful for their position. So they don't really have sort of like an open mind of where they are right now and like everyone else as well. They're not really like 100% there, if that sort of makes sense at all.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the more you expose yourself to, I guess, the better you become at it.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Like
yeah.
the maturity of how you deal with the situation just comes with experience.
Yeah,
oh,
for
100%.
sure.
Yeah.
And I know on one of the other podcasts a few ago with Dr. Dan Pronk, who was a special forces doctor,
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
he talked
yeah.
about that if he was driving home from this and came across a car accident where someone had been killed, for him it would be, oh yeah, this, that, do what he can, and he'd go home at night and not think of it.
Yeah,
Where
whereas a
someone
lot of
else
other
on the
people-
road, that might be the most traumatic
Oh,
thing
exactly.
Yeah.
that's ever happened to them.
Yeah.
And it's really important to sort of see it for not exactly how it sort of has its influence on you, but how it could to
Exactly.
them.
Yeah.
People deal with shit so much differently of what they've exposed to
Yeah.
previously in their life.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
It's a really weird thing too, because it can actually be genetic. Like you can actually pass on trauma genetically too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like some
That's
studies are
really
coming out now.
interesting.
Yeah, there's a genetic doctor talks about it on one of Joe Rogan's podcasts, that they're doing all these tests where basically all the testies have got a box full of like mice, and on the bottom of the box it's like electrified, and it's like not on until they spray a bit of citrus smell in, and then they electrocute them, and the mice will jump.
So it
and then
trains them to
it trains them that
the citrus smell
once they
means there's
smell the
pain coming,
citrus,
yeah.
they're going to get zapped and jump.
Yeah.
And they do it enough that eventually they don't even have the electric floor, but as soon as the mice smell it, they jump. And then they've gone they've had mice babies and mice babies again, like generations down the line. Yeah, whatever they're called, little mice. And then they spray citrus smell in, and who have no exposure ever to it, and they've jumped.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they're starting to unlock that shit trauma. People can be more susceptible to trauma from something that's happened generationally.
That's really
It's one of those really weird things.
So maybe if your parents have sort of had like a really easy sort of, well, obviously not easy, everyone faces their own problems, but sort of not so
exposed to it,
and sort of like troubled life, that maybe their kids aren't going to be raised with that sort of, I don't know, like like I don't know how to explain it, but like I think that explains a lot behind sort of why some people react the way that they do.
Yeah, because that's what they'll sort of unlock is, do people have all the same physical reaction to seeing something?
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, we don't. And why is that though?
Yeah.
That we all sort of look the same. Why not? Like, it's a bloody weird thing once you go down that sort of hole.
I guess it's like an evolutionary thing, you know. Like if you think back to the caveman days and stuff, you know, and you see a predator, you know, and you're gonna know that's scary, and you're gonna have to run from it. So, I guess from a younger age, and you first time seeing it, you're gonna really feel like, oh, that's scary, you know. I guess you sort of grow up seeing snakes as well, and you think, oh, better stay away from that. So,
Exactly.
that
so like
looks
especially in
scary,
Australia as well,
Yeah.
like you see a snake, you're like, oh.
I fucking hate snakes.
Whereas like if you were somewhere else, you'd be like, oh, what's that? Let's go have a
that's
look.
it. Never seen it before.
Fucking oath.
Oh, that looks cute.
And so, what's on the cards for you from it for sort of the rest of the year and then sort of 5 years down the track, if you've thought that far?
Well,
I know when I was your age, I didn't think that
I
far at all.
had everything sort of laid out at the start of the year.
Yeah.
And then everything sort of just like crumbled. Like, so I was like, all right, cool. So where do I go from here?
Yeah.
My original plan was to, because I was so involved with cadets, I'd spoken to a few of the people within the defence as well. And I think it was the brigadier of like the Australian Defence Force Academy or whatever. She said,
oh wow. Oh, I think I met her before.
Yeah. You might have been
She was
around
in
in like the
AFX,
AFX.
she?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in the robotics course. She rocked up.
Yeah, I had a bit of a chat with her, and she said that if I had any like troubles like with medical or whatever, she'd like sort of like help me out a little bit or like point me in the right direction. But since I've had all this trouble medically this year, I don't really see like Defence Force as an option right now.
Yeah.
Because that was something I was really interested in, and like I was so passionate about it, and ever since I was little, I was like, that's what I want to do. I either want to do that or like police force. Like definitely, that's what I'm gonna do.
RoboCop.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because the reasoning behind it, I was like, I get to drive on curbs. It's like if I'm a cop, I can like high speed chases, drive on curbs.
Hit pedestrians.
Awesome.
You know?
50 points. But I did want to do engineering, but because I've had all this trouble, I went to what they'd call sort of I think it's like on the SATAC or like ATAR like website, you get extra points if you go to a disadvantaged school.
Yeah.
And my school was like classified under that, so we were pretty disadvantaged school.
Yeah.
I think it depends what uni you're going to as well.
Yeah. So I really wanted to sort of do engineering at ADFA, and that was like my goal. That was everyone knew that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Until I discovered that maybe that's not something on the table anymore, considering didn't really do year 11.
Yeah.
And what I did of year 11 was at a disadvantaged school. And then considering all this medical stuff, like they're not going to want me. I know that's not the way to think, but I'm still going to give it a crack.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, because I've heard from a lot of people within the Defence Force that the roles change all the time.
Yeah.
They do.
So just keep applying, and you might get it. But at the moment, next year, I'm going to do a Cert 4 in cybersecurity.
Yep.
And then see where I go from there, and then maybe uni the year after, and then
You could even do that. I
apply
think
for
you could do
reserves or something.
even a specialist thing through ADVA, I think. with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, defence cyber's becoming
Yeah,
massive.
defence
Exactly,
cyber's
yeah.
huge now.
Especially for
getting there.
women as well.
Yeah.
Like, I did stage 2, what was it? Cybersecurity and hacking tools.
Mhm.
And that's a subject that I did this year in year 12.
Mm.
Where we learnt about how we shouldn't hack, but how to prevent people from hacking.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like hacking, but not hacking.
So you can know
so
it to
then we
stop
can
it,
know
you know?
what to stop
Yeah.
and when to
yeah.
stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like how to use all the tools and stuff. I came out of that with the top of the class, so I got an award for that
Smashed
at
it.
the end of the year. And then so my teacher recommended that maybe I pursue this sort of as a career instead, because he knew that I was having some difficulty sort of finding what I wanted to do. Especially because I have so many different interests in so many different places.
Yeah, like you were
Like,
saying,
I love
politics
the
and everything
gym,
as
like,
well.
I love
Yeah.
nutrition, sort of lifestyle.
Yeah, I see all
sort
the
of
all the
stuff.
photos you share
Yeah,
about. Like,
that's-
I want
me
arms
at
like
the gym
this,
with my biceps.
and I'm like,
Back
Chloe,
day.
I've been in the army
Yeah.
for almost 6 years, or on 6 years now. I don't have arms like that. Like Jesus.
I'm trying.
Yeah. No, you're doing well.
Thank you. But yeah, so I really was struggling whether I wanted to get into politics, like PT, like cybersecurity, engineering. Like there's
Yeah.
just all these different options just coming at me. And I was like, I'll just apply for all of them and see where I
Yeah,
am.
fucking oath.
So yeah, I ended up choosing cybersecurity because that's something I'm really like passionate about. And then hopefully I'll sort of worm my way into the defence force somehow.
Yeah.
But,
Well, the
yeah.
defence is actually raising. I think it is raised. I'm not that sure on it, but you know, you have Army, Navy, Air Force.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's going to be Army, Navy, Air Force Cyber.
Oh, that's cool.
It'll be its
Oh,
own
wow.
because the problem
Oh,
we're
wow,
having
that's
is
awesome.
tri-service. So you've got Navy with cyber, Army with cyber, Air Force with cyber, all doing the same
Yeah, I was gonna
thing.
say, it's all
Jobs, but in
essentially
But
the
different
same
it's
departments,
all
isn't it?
cross-loaded from different departments, and it's like
Yeah.
just lost in translation.
Yeah, definitely.
So it eventually it'll just raise. And there's all this thing about, well, are they going to wear a different uniform?
Yeah.
Like, are they going to be not even
like
Army?
pink.
Yeah, like, well,
Some
there you
pink
go.
camo or
You
like
might have,
some crazy sort of like fluorescent yellow, like
Yeah, imagine. Well, you're just going to be sitting in an office. You're not going
Exactly,
to
yeah.
need to be
You'll
camouflaged.
have to wear
Yeah.
black and white, you know, look like suits.
Yeah.
oh, exactly, yeah.
Fucking oath. Aviator sunny and
Yeah,
shit.
that's it. Yeah, yeah.
But a lot of it as well. My teacher is in the Defence Force, so
Mm-hmm.
he's in the Air Force, and he does all the cybersecurity stuff as
Mm.
well.
That
And
you
knocking the mic
Yeah.
around. Yeah, and he would always have chats to me about it as well, and I'd be like, "What are my chances? Like, have a chat to your workmates for me, like all that sort of stuff." And he'd come back and be like, "Well, you might get into the like Air Force or the Navy, but it's pretty unlikely that you'd get into the Army, considering like
Ground force.
you're missing
you
a
know.
leg."
Yeah.
And I'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, awesome." Cool.
You'd be
That's
like, I'm already
really what I
missing one,
wanted
so if
to
I
get
tread on
into
a
too,
mine,
yeah.
it's already is better.
Yeah, oh, exactly. If anything, it's an advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a step ahead, you know, like
But yeah,
No pun
giving me a
intended.
foot up.
we can attach
Put my
something
best
to
foot
it.
forward.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's all going fantastically for you.
Thank you.
I'm stoked. I'm stoked to have had you on. And
Thank you.
so, is there anything we've missed out on? Is there anything you wanted to go over that we haven't yet? Because we're ticking on 57 minutes now.
Oh, geez.
wow.
That
We're
went
smashing
quick.
it out. Yeah, bloody, it
That went
always
quick
goes
as,
really
that's
quick.
awesome,
Yeah. Unless there's anything.
Unless there's any more questions from you,
Oh no,
or if you want to talk about like
Life story.
your experience.
everyone will be
and-
absolutely
Yeah.
sick of me talking. Everyone listening to this will be like, "Shut up, Willy."
Oh, I doubt it.
Oh no, they will be.
Yeah.
Especially all the boys from work.
Yeah.
They're always just like,
Yeah.
one of my mates, well, not a guy from work, but another mate. There's an intro to this that goes like, "Oh, it's the Willy Show," and then gets down. Somehow his car has glitched. Every time it turns on the car, it's my voice.
Oh,
He's like,
you're
"I
kidding.
fucking hate it." He's
You're
like,
kidding.
"I'm so off it."
Oh, I love that. That's so
Oh,
funny.
it's brilliant.
Do you reckon he'll have to like sell his car? Just-
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's gonna sell the car
Yeah, he'll-
for some of your like super fans or something. Like, if
that's
it's got
it,
any.
No, I don't. Thank God. No, well, thank you so much for coming on, and it's a pleasure to speak to someone
Thank
who's
you. It was really
you know-
nice being here.
No,
Thank
no,
you for
uh,
having us too. It was awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. And it's been like it's inspirational to me, even though you don't see it. I think the most inspirational thing is you don't see it as a disability, but you don't sell it as that either. You're not like, "Oh, look, I'm on the beach with one leg."
Yeah.
You're like,
Guys,
I'm
look at
just,
my leg. Look.
I'm just on the beach.
I'm just on the
So
beach,
many
guys.
people in your situation would sort of use it as an excuse. as
Oh,
well.
exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
and you've
I
sort of
reckon, yeah.
turned it into something where you can grow from it.
Thank
you know.
Yeah.
Well, my leg won't grow.
Yeah,
but-
well, that's
No,
it. The rest of
and
it,
you
yeah.
have grown from it.
Oh, I reckon my boss is tired of my leg jokes already.
Oh yeah, I wish I worked with you. I could be making. Like, I thought
Your
of one
best
last
and worst
night.
crew, yeah.
I might do that. I think of one. I'm just going to message you like, hey, what does
I
the
love
say
it.
to the like what?
Yeah. Oh, the other day he was like, "What did he say?" He goes, "I was about to tell you how many steps I've done today,
Yeah.
but you'll probably make some sick, twisted joke out of it." And I was like, "I've probably done half the amount of steps you have. Don't even need to know the answer, but I've probably done half."
Oh,
and he
jeez.
goes, "Yeah, I knew you'd do that."
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you guys so much. I really
thank
appreciate it.
you.
And everyone who, if you've got to this point, which I'm sure you have, thanks for listening. This is episode 23 with Chloe and Peter. Easy. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.